The last thing I wanted to do was to finally try to tackle sourdough. I have been a cook for many years, and for some reason, sourdough has always scared me. But my beautiful young daughter-in-law is so good at it, so proficient at it. She not only makes makes bread out of sourdough, but she makes other things as well from the discard. The whole notion of the discard and everything else is new to me, but I'm going to read it and read it and read it today and try to figure it out. The recipe she sent me starts with 1/2 cup of whole wheat flour, but my daughter-in-law said she used white flour and it worked for her. So what I'm going to do is start out with 1/2 cup of white flour. I have a mason jar here, a quart mason jar. I'm going to use my canning funnel because I'm a bit of a messy baker. Add that 1/2 cup of white flour and 1/2 cup of water. And stir it up. Now this is supposed to sit on your counter, and I have to read the rest of the instructions, but I think I'll make a separate video on my sourdough adventures and whether this is working out for me or not. I know that Donna from Baker's Brews channel does really well with her sourdough, and I suggest that you go over to her channel and look it up. She's got 2 adorable children, a nice husband, and she tries to be a homesteader within the city limits, and she's got some really cute videos. So let me give a shout out to Donna at Baker's Brews. So I'm going to actually go back and watch all of her videos on sourdough and how to make it and keep it going and how to use the discard, because I guess you have to take some off and then add more flour, and I don't know about water yet. I've got to read it still. But that is a video to come. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I get going really fast when I do all this stuff, and then my morning's gone, but it's definitely worth it to smell the wonderful smells in the house from this soup stock boiling in the pan, and knowing that I've got some hot fresh bread rising in the mixing bowl. And now we're going to see if we can do sourdough. I'm shaking in my boots. And we're just going to stir it up really well. This is a lot thicker than I thought it would be. Just going to put a tiny bit more water in. All you sourdough pros out there will probably laugh your head off at me, but you got to start somewhere, right? So this is where I'm starting. I've got the whole wheat flour and the water in. I've stirred it up. Then I'm going to go read what the next few steps are. So do stay tuned for my sourdough adventures. Here's hoping it goes well. Welcome to day 3 on my sourdough starter saga. I didn't film yesterday, which was the first feeding. Sorry about that. I should have. What I did was I started one with regular flour. It didn't look that happy or active. So the next day I added some wheat flour plus the water. And so let's look and see if this is looking any happier. Yeah, look at that right there. You can see bubbles and you can see activity. So yesterday, since I fed these both. This is the one I started with just wheat flour. And see, it looks like it's more active than the one that I started with white and then the next day went to wheat. So this is the whole wheat flour both days. And I definitely see more bubbles and activity in there. So then that would put us on the second feeding. So it's been another 24 hours. And you're supposed to check for bubbles again. If you didn't see bubbles by this time, you're supposed to discard the whole thing and start again. But I do see bubbles. So I need to discard half of the starter. So I'll have to discard some of this and some of this since I have two different ones going. I looked up a recipe for sourdough banana nut muffins because I have some bananas that need to be used and I need to use some of the discard. In this recipe, it calls for 1/2 cup of sourdough starter discard. So that's what we're going to try today. This is a 1/2 cup measure. So we're going to take half of this discard. This is the more active one, I think. It is really gooey and really different to work with. Which stands to reason because it's only flour and water. Okay. Ugh. And we still need to get more. So I'm thinking rationally, because of the math that we used 1/2 cup of flour the first day to start the thing, plus 1/4 cup of water. And then the same thing the next day. It looks like it's going to be about 1/2 cup of discard. Very gooey. Okay. Now the oven is up to temperature. I think I'm going to use a little of the other one too and finish filling that up. And then the rest of the 1/2 cup of this one, I'm going to just discard in the garbage. Now this is the one that had the whole wheat. It's definitely more active. So let's see if we can get some of this out. And not make a tremendous mess. Okay, so that's about 1/2 cup. Now I've got the discard out and it's time to feed our lovely sourdough starter again. 1/2 cup of flour, white flour. Oh, lovely, I just made a lovely mess, that's okay. And 1/4 cup of water for each jar. Then we have to mix really well. Now we'll mix up the other jar. Both of the jars have now been fed. I'm going to keep them right here next to my stove where it's nice and warm, and we'll check them again tomorrow. Now it's time to make the sourdough banana nut muffins. All cleaned up, and now we're just waiting for the muffins to bake. They're looking good. They're mighty hot, but let's take a look, see if we can get the paper off of them. I'm anxious to try them. I really hope I'm going to like them. They look nice and they smell great. Since we don't have frosting made, I'm going to put a little bit of butter on it. See how hot it is still? I've let it cool and let it cool. Okay, I have to tell you, I'm a little bit nervous. You that have dealt with sourdough, you think I'm silly, but you know, when you do your first time with something, you first make a recipe, you are a little bit nervous. Let's give it a try. Well, it is very, very moist. And I think it tastes good. It maybe not be quite as flavorful as some of my other recipes. Could just be the recipe. But I did it. I baked with sourdough. Please don't be scared of sourdough like I have been for all these years. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. I'm really pretty excited. Thanks for going through my sourdough experience with me. When you know you've got friends and supporters rooting for you and urging you on, I think it is a little easier to go ahead and jump into a recipe that you're not familiar with. And you know what? If worst came to worst and it all didn't work out, I would just feed it to the chickens or put it in the garbage and count it as an experience and do it all over again. So don't give up, keep trying. Thank you for joining me on this experience. And please come again soon.